Hi guys, Dorothy here, professional astrologer. You can find me on the web at nhastrologer.com. And thank you for coming and listening to this today. I'm going to talk about 2019. I'm going to do a video forecast for each of the zodiac signs. But first, I'm going to give you 5 or 6 minutes of the year overview. Take notes. And then this will be the introduction. It's going to be in front of each one of the other videos that I create. So if you watch this introduction, you can skip it in the other videos if you end up watching more than one. All right. So let's get started. We have eclipses. Capricorn and Cancer. Cancer, Capricorn, oppositions, full moons, new moons, starting in January, ending in December. 5 eclipses this year. January 5th, January 21, see if I can remember, July 2nd, July 16, December 26. You could slow that down or hit pause and listen again. Those eclipses, mainly the Cancer Capricorn. So what this is doing, the eclipses, they change zodiac signs every 18 months or so. So these eclipses with the transiting lunar nodes, they're called, that's where eclipses happen. It is helping us and ushering us into a more authentic place in who we are. What we're focusing on is our home, security, our career. Do you feel like you're being true to yourself? That Cancer eclipses especially are helping us to tap into our emotions and how secure do I feel in my home? Do I feel secure? Can I come home and be vulnerable and emotional and comfortable and relaxed? Because home life, Cancer, and the public life, Capricorn, are 2 very different things, but they are tethered by an opposition. They are, when something happens on one end of the stick, it happens on the other end, right? Because there's always 2 ends to a stick, unless you make a circle, and that's all the 12 zodiac signs. But the opposition, Cancer, Capricorn, is ushering us into this area of being authentic in how we're presenting ourselves to the world. Now, a lot of people, it will create insecurities for some people, depending on how evolved or how in alignment with what's important for you. So this Cancer stuff can make us overly emotional, or it can help us tap into how we need to be more in tune with how we feel. Because life should feel good. Life shouldn't be difficult. Difficult things happen, yes, and we move through them. We always move through them. And that's where you tap into your emotions. And that's what this eclipse stuff is all about, in Cancer especially, helping us to get in touch with who you really are. And then the opposite energy of Capricorn is about being an authority at what it is that you do, feeling authentic, feeling like you're very validating how you feel. You can take control of things, which is great if you need to, but make sure you do it from an emotional place. How do I feel about this? Great, now I can take charge. All right, this is that Cancer Capricorn energy. It's super strong this year because of the eclipses. I mean, we have this energy every year, but it's powerful. So I'm going to, in the individual videos, I'm going to talk about it. You write all those keywords down that resonated with you, and then I'm going to talk about it in each house when it happens, okay? And so you'll get the zodiac energy of it a little more specific for you, okay? What else do I want to talk about? We also have Jupiter and Neptune squaring off this year, and it's a mutable square. Jupiter in Sag loves to experience life and to learn through diving in, full immersion. Squaring Neptune in Pisces. Neptune's been in Pisces for ages, so it's not a big deal, because it's just helping us to get into a more spiritual place for a lot of people, right? But Jupiter and Neptune in a mutable square, this is just enough tension, so it gives us motivation. Just enough, because squares aren't negative, like you'll read in some books, how they just villainize squares. But we need a little bit of tension to move us, especially with the mutable signs. So to me, this is a fantastic energy for the year. Now, the mutable square between Jupiter and Neptune will inspire us to be creative, to work on our intuition, work on our spiritual practices, things like that. And the square energy of that, and you can write this down too. Let me find my notes. Here it is. January 13th, June 16th, September 21. So those 3 times is when they're exact, but they'll be playing with each other almost all year long. So that means we all have an opportunity to really tap into intuition and our spiritual and creative abilities. All right. Helps us to smooth things out. Now, some people might take this and just dive off the deep end and go into their illusion and go into a place that, you know, that if we drink too much or get into drugs. So drugs and alcohol sometimes can really, people can go off a deep end with that too. But the Capricorn, especially the Capricorn eclipses and the energy there, it definitely helps to anchor us in a little bit more, because we also have Saturn sextile Neptune this year. And with Saturn sextile Neptune, that's a fantastic anchor. I like that it's there. We actually need it because it's going to help to ground us in whatever it is we're going. So most of us don't go off a deep end into, you know, la la land. But hey, if you feel like diving in once in a while into music, I hear La La Land and I think music. You go into music, go into meditation, trust your intuition, get into painting, get into photography, whatever it is. These are the beautiful creative things we can do with Saturn sextile Neptune and the Jupiter squaring Neptune. All right, and I'll give you some more specifics in just a minute. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Hi Libra, this one is for you, so let's get started. January 5th, new moon solar eclipse in Capricorn is down there in your 4th house. And what that represents is this, and this is going to go on, the 4th house and your 10th houses will be the ones interacted and activated during the next 18 months of eclipses that will be in Cancer and Capricorn energies. So this is the specific pieces of it, all right? New moon in Capricorn right off the bat, beginning 2019, January 5th, in that area of home and family in their 4th house. And besides just being your home, your domicile, the family you live with, of course, it's the family you grew up with. It's the beliefs that your family has passed on to you. So that's those emotional beliefs and how we can possibly work through this, because every 18 years is when we have eclipses in each area of the chart. So this may be an opportunity for you that have Libra rising, especially to work on or set goals based on how you want to break away from old habits and old patterns that have been instilled in you since childhood. Now, if you're focusing on your family, that's an important thing to do too. So January 5th, I'm going to talk about this the whole next 10 or 15 minutes. January 5th, that new moon eclipse in Capricorn in that 4th house wants you to set goals based on those things I just said. All right? Okay. Let's move on to what's next. I have like 10 slides to look at. The next thing we have going on that I want to talk about is on January 13th. It also happens later in the year, so write these dates down. June 16 and September 21, when we have Jupiter in Sagittarius, which is wonderful and expansive, and just we want to learn a lot when Jupiter's in Sag and experience life in a lot of ways. Makes a square aspect to Neptune. Now, the square between mutable signs is not difficult. What it is it gives us just enough push so we can actually use these mutable energies, because mutable energies sometimes can just be sort of hanging out and not doing a whole lot. The square between Jupiter and Neptune is fantastic because it's inspirational for us to be creative, artistic, and we can do a lot of work with this. For you, it goes from Jupiter is in your 3rd house and Neptune is over in the 6th house. So to me, this is communicating in your everyday life, being creative in your everyday life. So whatever that means for you, whether it's being, a lot of creative writing at work, if you feel like being a poet, if you feel like picking up a paintbrush, playing music, or you just get immersed and lost in music or a book. This is an opportunity, January 13, June 16, September 21, for you to engage some of these creative pieces in your life, whatever they happen to be. All right? Take advantage of these opportunities. And it's not just these days, it's the weeks coming up to it. So next thing I want to talk about is the next eclipse that we have, and that is on January 21st. And this is full moon lunar eclipse. It is a super moon. We will be able to see it in North America. So NASA has a great site where you can go and check out. Just Google it, right? And you can find when it is. I can't give you the times. I don't remember. So and I didn't take time to look it up because there's already too much to talk about here. So take your own initiative if you want to go see it. But this eclipse on January 21st is at 0 degrees of Leo, and that is in the area of your chart, which is the 11th house, and that is inspiring you, if you want to get involved with groups and associations, things that really help you feel like a good person because you're doing something for others. So this has been going on. That's the Leo area of the chart, and over the last year, 2017 through 2018, the eclipses we had in that time frame were in this area. So this is the final hit. This is the final, it's not a hit, smack. It's just, this is the final awareness moment of the full moon lunar eclipse on January 21st. So if you have that final feeling that you really want to do something and work with others, then now's the time to do it. Or you're at least made aware of it. Now, moving on, we also have in January, so the end of January, middle of June, early November 2019, we have Saturn making a sextile to Neptune. So simultaneously, Jupiter squares Neptune as Saturn sextiles Neptune. This is great. We need this. We need this because this is us. Saturn is going to help us anchor things in. And a sextile is a very easy aspect between two planets. And so to me, this helps anchor in that creativity or that intuition or that flow that you want and the flow that we have between the Jupiter and Neptune. So take advantage of that, all right? Because Saturn is right down there in your 4th house. And so I'll talk more about that in just a minute when we get to a little more about Saturn. So take advantage of that and those dates. I'll put it up on the screen for you. Next, we have Uranus entering the sign of Taurus once again. I want you to look in your calendars, look back to May 17th. So May, June, July of 2018. And when Uranus was in Taurus and then he went retrograde, he moves back into Taurus on March 6th. When he is in the sign of Taurus, that means he's moved now into your 8th house. And that 8th house is that area of shared resources and that area of life that goes through a deep transformation. All right, that 8th house has everything to do with diving deep. When Uranus moves in there, this is a pushing against boundaries, pushing against things that you feel are too restrictive. So when Uranus enters that 8th house, it will be in that 8th house for the next 7 years. So when planets, especially the outer planets like this, first cross a border of a house cusp, if you will, is when we feel it the most. After a while, when it's in there for years, we kind of get used to it. So it's like the relative that moves back in just for a couple of weeks and they never leave. Something like that. We kind of just get used to it after a while. So when Uranus does move into your 8th house on March 6th, just recognize the fact that it has something to do with, breaking a lot of boundaries around what your beliefs are when it comes to those shared resources, financial endeavors, and things like that, okay? Now, Mercury retrogrades every year at least, well, not at least, but 3 times this year, and it usually fits, not perfectly, but fits into one element. And this year, the 3 retrogrades of Mercury are in water signs. Now, I'm not going to go over all of that. Come and subscribe to my YouTube channel and get the weekly forecast, and you'll be able, I'll give you lots of information about that. But the overall theme of this in the water signs, since half of the eclipses are in Cancer, which is also a water sign, we have the opportunity to really tap into how we're feeling and emotionally connecting. And like I mentioned in the introduction, getting in alignment with who we are and being our authentic selves. There's a whole wave of that coming through from what I can tell and feel with all of these watery energies. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you there. Next, I want to talk about Jupiter will retrograde April 10 to August 11. And when Jupiter retrogrades in your third house, and that's the house of communication and the house of the area of the chart that's about, communicating and writing and your neighborhood, your cousins, your siblings. When Jupiter retrogrades April to August, this gives us a chance to just regroup and not go being mindful of where we're going, getting too big. So it helps us to slow that down a little bit. The retrogrades aren't bad. They're just about slowing us down so we can, once we've gathered information about whatever it is we're gathering information, we have a time to assimilate it. And this is perfect with Jupiter and Sag in a retrograde phase. And that's in your third house. And the third house has a lot to do with learning, early learning as well. So you might be very busy learning new things this year. Moving on to the next big retrograde, and that's Saturn. I'm not covering all of them in this, but these two are big. So Saturn retrograde, April 29 to September 17. And again, that's in your fourth house. So where the first eclipse was, starting in January. All right, and then the rest of the eclipse is going to be 4th and 10th. Saturn in your fourth house for the next few years. And as this retrograde, this is about restructuring what it is that we need to make our family solid. What support do we need from family? What support are we giving family? And how are we going to do it? And feeling strong about it. Feeling like really sure that we're making the right choices for our family. So follow what your heart is telling you to do when it comes to these retrogrades. Next, we have the new moon solar eclipse. No, it's not June, it's July 2nd. This is at 10 degrees of Cancer. There it is. Let me find it. Up in your 10th house. And that 10th house represents your public image and your career. So your career, new moon eclipse, focus on what it is that you want to set goals in your career. All right? Maybe you're a cook. If you have Cancer up there, sometimes we're cooks. Sometimes we're somebody who really cares and nurtures for others. We are a caregiver. Or whatever it is for you. It's not all specific like that, but those are ideas. New moon eclipse in your career sector means that it is time to set goals and to know that you're starting a whole new cycle based on how you feel and what you feel about your career. Be authentic. I mentioned that in the beginning, and again, I will say it again. Next eclipse we have, moving on, July 16, and that is at 24 degrees of Capricorn. Again, this one's involved with Pluto. Pluto's at 21. The eclipsed moon, which is the full moon, gives us this opportunity to see what we've been working on since January 5th. January 5th, the eclipse, the new moon was setting and starting new things. This eclipse, July 16th, is about being made aware of what it is that we've been doing for the last 6 months since January in regards to those goals that we set early January. The next thing I want to talk about is Jupiter at the end of 2019 on December 2nd. It enters the sign of Capricorn out of its own sign of Sag, in Sag for the whole year. It's like, yay, we can just expand and learn. Jupiter moves into Capricorn. That means he moves into your fourth house. So since January of 2019, all the way through till December of this year, the universe, the planets, the stars have been telling you to set goals based on what you feel is good and important for your security. Jupiter's finally going to get in there. He'll be in there for a whole year, and I'll talk a lot about that for 2020 when we get to there. It is like shouting at this point in time. Because if you haven't been paying attention to these eclipses since January, then once Jupiter moves into Capricorn, he's just going to expand that, and he's really going to let you know, all right, what it is that you need your strength and foundation on. So that's some of the most important things that we have going on is in that regard. And then we have, there it is. The last thing I want to talk about for the year is on December 26th, and that is another new moon solar eclipse. Again, focusing in on our foundations. Jupiter is with this eclipse now. So again, one more time, it is focusing in on your family. Your fourth house is just loaded this year. Libra, pay attention to what's going on at home and how your emotions are in alignment with what you want your family to have and what your family needs from you and what you need from your family. All right? I'm going to leave you with that. Please, comment, like, share. Blessings. Namaste.